George Lucas is in the headlines again, this time making a big endorsement for Bob Iger. Although, in the past, Mr. Lucas has had quite negative things to say about the current Disney CEO. Now, we're wondering, did this truly damage George Lucas and send the very last of his fans packing to a new galaxy somewhere else? Hello, folks. Welcome back to the Pro Channel. We are so happy to have you. You are the gigawatts that drive everything we do here as we continue to explain entertainment, keep you ahead of the culture curve. And by the way, folks, we believe that's important because we believe that culture is, well, intrinsically and intricately intertwined with entertainment. All right, folks, joining us today, we've got Lauren Connor, Culture Casino, and Jonas J. Campbell. Welcome, gentlemen.
Very good to be here. And I just want to remind you all that it's not about power. It's about who is allowed to use it.
That's right. Well, we've got power here, but when it comes to Lucasfilm and Star Wars, they seem to want to give power only to those who probably don't deserve any of it and have done things that should have, we think, meant that they stayed far, far away from children's entertainment. Today, we're talking about George Lucas, though. And George Lucas last week put out an endorsement of Bob Iger, someone who he had previously said very, very negative things about, one would presume, in regards to Star Wars, how it's been treated, etc. George Lucas, there was a statement that came out that just totally endorsed Bob Iger and was rather harsh, abrasive, and maybe even rude to Nelson Peltz, Jay Rasulo, and anybody supporting them to get on the Disney board, calling them amateurs, essentially. And so, gentlemen, what I'm looking at now is, I don't know if you guys saw the Mexican Iron Man rant on this channel. We released that dedicated video yesterday. But he speaks on behalf of a lot of people out there who are very upset with George Lucas about this. They believe that Nelson Peltz is one of the keys to returning Disney to the keys that it once believed in, getting it back to the sensible center, out of politics, away from propagandizing children, and maybe, just maybe, moderating and going back to good Star Wars. They see this as a very significant betrayal. For them, this is like a grandfather betraying them, but not everybody agrees with that. Lauren, I'd like to start with you. You are the Star Wars guru. Do you feel that in this endorsement of Bob Iger, and ostensibly then Kathleen Kennedy, do you think that George Lucas, did he wipe out that last group of fans who held on to what he did in the original trilogy and to some degree the prequels? Do you think they're now gone and have had enough of George?
I think right now people are very deep into their feelings, and there's a reason for that. I think we probably felt quite abused for the last 12 years, and there's a segment of the population that has held out this hope that somehow, maybe, George returned. and
instead, it was Weinstein all along.
Yeah, and I think that people, I think they know that George seethed about what Disney has done with Star Wars. It was very obvious that he was not happy with the sequel trilogy, didn't even attend the screening of The Rise of Palpatine. And so
he's a happier man for it.
Yeah, I think people expected that if he ever did comment publicly about it, it would be to trash what they had done to his legacy. And so this statement that came out was a bucket of ice water that got thrown on the fan base, and they're angry about it. And I think they're right to be angry about it. But I think it's very important to keep in mind, George is 79 years old. He wanted to sell Lucasfilm. Firstly, he wanted it to remain intact so that the people that still worked there would continue to be able to do so. Hopefully, they would continue to be able to innovate in cinema. But he wanted to be able to enjoy his twilight years. And I think that when the sequel trilogy came out, he doesn't, I don't think, see it as legitimate. He doesn't see it as his Star Wars. He has always restricted what he saw as Star Wars to be what he himself created. And
Lauren, is it fair also to say that he intended, when he sold it to Disney, that Disney would honor what he had come up with for the sequels, and that when Disney did not honor that in the least, that was highly offensive to him?
Yeah, if you're talking about personally, yes. I think his assumption was that he had created these script treatments, and he assumed that out of deference to him and his legacy, that they would use those, and it was definitely very offensive to him. Iger himself said in his Ride of a Lifetime book that he unnecessarily made him angry and sort of poisoned the well there. And the comments that Lucas made at the time showed that he was very, very upset. I think he probably still is kind of, but it's also past him now. He is in his twilight years. I think he wants to enjoy his retirement with his wife. And I think if the fan base is honest, I think most of them will get over this, because we wouldn't have any of this without George. It's George's vision that brought Star Wars to the screen, and Indiana Jones, and many of the technical achievements that make the movies that we see today possible. And you have to give him credit for that. I don't think this statement really meant anything from George. I think you could fairly question whether he actually wrote it. I don't think it expresses what his real feelings are. I also don't think you'll probably ever get him to quote on the record what his real feelings are.
You think George doesn't believe in magic? Come on now, Lauren. He believes in that Disney pixie dust magic.
I have to say something here, though. The problem is with this is we could probably all forget about what George Lucas said, but Disney is going to remind us of George Lucas at any opportunity they get, because they have a marketing department. And they're going to want to evoke his name all the way down, and they're going to continue doing what they're doing. I have no faith that the Acolyte is going to be good. And let's just
you really stepped on a branch there, Jonas. Way to go out a limb.
Well, right. Let's run a little thought experiment here. Let's say that this is just theoretically, could hypothetically be an affront to everything that Star Wars is known for. Just maybe hypothetically,
Sure.
Do you think at the end of that, people are going to say, you know what? I'm really glad that George Lucas endorsed this company and what they've done. I think every time the name Star Wars is attached to something Disney, people are going to be reminded of George Lucas. And I think they're going to be reminded of his most recent statements, because I think we've all gone back to the white slavers comment, and we've all gone back to his "I don't have anything to do with that" comment, and we've all read into it what we've all thought might be his secret feelings about the matter.
Sure, but I think if we were operating in rational times, I would agree with you. I think that Disney would be going to the Lucas well every chance that they have, but they don't like Lucas. They don't like to reference that he has anything to do with Star Wars. If they could, they would pretend that they created it way back in '77. I think the only reason that they reference him now is because
documents that seem to suggest they did.
I think the only reason they referenced him now is because they're desperate about this Peltz fight that they have going on, and they're desperately trying to push it back. I don't think there's any chance that the Acolyte is going to satisfy anybody. It's just going to be another twig thrown on the fire that already is Star Wars. The other thing that I would say is that those people that will remember these statements, it's us. It's the fans who care about Star Wars. The normies, they don't care. They don't know. They're just going to watch something and be entertained. They don't pay any attention to who makes these things. They know George Lucas's name. They don't pay any attention to his press statements. I think for the general audience, they don't care.
Culture, take your sip. Go ahead. Culture, let it rip.
Okay, so I'm going to tell you right now, Lauren, I'm going to remind them every single opportunity I have of everything that George has done. He committed just a series of transgressions when he, his not so secret feelings were revealed in the comments like white slavers or it's no longer mine or any of the other things that he said that's against it. And it's funny because it's so easy for us to go back and say, your things started to go sideways when you and Marcia separated ways. And, then your new wife, who is now compromised in 3 ways to Sunday when it comes to the financial aspects of this particular statement, because of who she works for. probably is the person that crafted it, because in no way would George say some of the things that he said when Star Wars isn't magic. Okay, that's one of the things he fought against.
You forgot about the Night Sisters. Clearly, they were definitely magic. Definitely,
those were those George? I don't know.
No,
I think they were created while he was still there. It's Filoni, but it was under Lucas.
But now, wait a minute, Culture.
It's not Filoni either. It's Dave Wolverton from The Courtship of Princess Leia. Filoni co-opted them for the Clone Wars.
Right. Okay, but the Witches of Dathomir is Filoni. It's just that the witches existed in Star Wars Expanded Universe.
All right, that was my fault. I sidebarred us. But let me get back to this, Culture. I want to say one thing, and then I want to let you loose again.
Okay.
I just want to say, and I think this is important, and I think we need to say it more often here and elsewhere. I think that one of the most anti-woman things that we do in all of entertainment is to ignore the contributions of Marcia Lucas, because she had such a massive role in creating what once was the biggest franchise on the planet, and she does not get credit, and that allows other women to pretend to break glass ceilings that do not belong to them, but are hers and hers alone. Culture, go.
No, I'm with you. In fact, I think that it was shameful what they did to Princess Leia. Carrie went through an awful lot towards the end there that really kind of destroyed some elements of her character. But Marcia Lucas in particular, there are many people that are responsible that were women in the history of entertainment. We would have no Star Trek without Lucille Ball. I mean, there's all these ideas about the people that participated in what made companies great, including Disney. I mean, if you've seen the picture Ink and Paint or any of the other great things that talk about the people in the background who made it, that were women, that made it so you got all this great entertainment. I mean, Mary Blair is probably one of the most well-known women in Disney's history. But when you talk about Star Wars, Marcia was probably the person that saved not only the first film, but probably the second film.
Not taking away from Marcia at all, but you've also got to throw Gary Kurtz in there too.
Indeed.
He doesn't get enough credit either.
This is also true.
One other thing that I might mention about the magic statement is that, Pro, you said, don't you believe in magic? Well, no, and neither does Lucas. The thing is, Lucas is the magician. He's the guy that knows how the trick works. It's the audience that you want to believe in magic. And so that's another reason why I think that statement doesn't quite ring true.
It doesn't sound like him.
Yeah.
Right. And he's a very private person. It hits on some, I don't think that George Lucas, being sort of a modest, private guy, reserved in his speech, that's what caught our attention when he said white slavers that time.
Yes.
Because it was so out of character.
Startling.
It meant that he viscerally had a reaction. I don't think that he's calling another billionaire an amateur. I don't think George Lucas is doing that. I don't think
it's very antithetical to George Lucas's whole shtick that he would be against an amateur, because he's always been an outsider in Hollywood. A lot of people, I mean, Star Wars is the biggest independent film of all time. By some definitions of the word. Obviously, it's huge. So it's a weird statement, but at the same time, it's kind of true. And
Tom is going to fight you. Tom of Midnight's Edge is going to fight you for taking it away from Ninja Turtles. Just a heads up.
Well, I think one reason that George would come out this way is because of the political divide between them. George has always seen himself as a very progressive person. However, he did say in the Empire Dreams documentary that he got very capitalistic. He was very aware of the fact that he had made a giant business, which was something he never really wanted to be a part of, and alluded to the fact that he sort of became the thing that he was striving against when he was younger. So he can make that point if he wants to, but I think it's a little hypocritical to do so, given that he built this giant billions and billions company.
But to return to one of the original things that I think inspired this entire conversation, I will say this. Am I going to remember Lucas in a positive or negative light in the future? Well, I used to love Lucas as a grandfather, as you mentioned earlier, Pro. I used to think he was great. He created a childhood for me. He created a film.
I think this is why this hurt some people more than others. I think for those who saw him in that kind of paternal way, I think it really stung.
Yeah, because he created my love of film. I mean, I'm little boy me sitting in the theater with my first real cinematic experience that I can recall with absolute clarity is a giant Star Destroyer chasing a Corellian cruiser, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Corvette. Yeah.
Corvette, excuse me, yeah. And I know you would know that. And that changed my, and I know it's hard to say when you're that young that it would change your mind, but it absolutely did. That was the moment I wanted to make something. I wanted to make films. I was interested in that. I wanted to build miniatures, like, the starships. I wanted to understand how these things were put together, and that led me into a journey, right? And that was all inspired by this one creation, and as Jonas says, the biggest independent production of all time. And I'm gonna say I appreciate it. I mean, but I will never look at him with the same light,
But do you think he actually made this statement, though? Because I would hate to see his image tarnished for you based on a tactic that Disney pulled, because I don't think this was him.
Would you? Well, okay. So, but here's the other problem. So you're tacitly agreeing if it's done on your behalf, are you not?
Well, I don't think he really has anything to do with it anymore. He doesn't. He's a shareholder in Disney.
They put his name on it.
Of course they did. They're going to want to do that to give it some type of faux legitimacy. But I don't think that. I think that Lucas, as far as he's concerned, Star Wars was done when he created Revenge of the Sith. I think that was, and the Clone Wars. You've got the Clone Wars after that. But I think anything that didn't actually have his fingerprints on it, I don't think he sees as being Star Wars. It's all spin-off stuff to him.
Okay.
Well, it makes for interesting relationships now, right? Who would have ever thought that George Lucas, that his name would be attached to backing Bob Iger? Who would have ever thought it? But here we are. And now there will be questions. And who knows, maybe one day George will have a slip of the tongue and say something he really means, and we'll all be shocked and be doing another video. But until then, I guess we'll cover Nelson Peltz chasing after that board seat or board seats. And I have a feeling that it's going to be more than just the next week or so. Folks, we'll cover it. Let us know down in the comments below, though, what do you think about George Lucas? What do you think now? And which side do you agree with? Be friendly, be kind. We all like Lauren. We all like Culture. We all like Jonas. And, well, you can like me or dislike me, but we like to facilitate discourse, discussion, views, opinions, and then we all like to be friends at the end of it. Folks, make sure you check out Jonas J. Campbell on That Park Place, the YouTube channel. Make sure you check out Culture Casino on Culture Casino. And Lauren Connor is doing stuff on his channel, reading through the Timothy Zahn novels. Folks, we hope you had a good time. On the way out the door, like, share, subscribe, click it, stick it to the algorithms, hit the notification bell. And don't forget that the Pro Show is live Tuesdays at noon Eastern. Folks, wherever you are and whatever you're doing, keep learning, keep growing, and in spite of everything else, may the Force be with you.
Oh.
What are you doing?
Well, you see, I wanted to get some inside scoops on Disney and their different corporations, if you know what I mean. So I figured by looking into this fistbowl and sucking it randomly with my own energy that I paid for, you paid for, I could do the whole experience where you can be a master and spy on your targets.
You're an idiot. If you want to get the inside scoop on Disney or even other media organizations, you should check out thatparkplace.com and subscribe to WDW Pro's YouTube channel. That'd be way easier, more accurate, and less dumb.
Are you saying I won't get accurate information this way?
No, you can't.
Who'd have think?